All right, let's take a look at another CodeWars exercise. This one's called Reverse Vowels in a String, and it was sent to me by someone who asked, so let's help them out. Your goal is to write a function which will reverse the vowels. Everything else stays the same, but if we take hello, the E and the O are in opposite directions. If we take tomatoes, all the vowels are in opposite direction. And you can still kind of see that it's the same pattern with the same size words and the same consonants are kind of enough to let you read it, but the vowels are in opposite order. Y is not an issue, but case is an issue. We do have to consider upper and lower case. So in my mind, this is 3 parts. 1, we have to identify a vowel. 2, we have to identify all the vowels. And 3, we have to reverse them. So let's do that. I'm going to make a function called vowel, and it's going to be a lambda because A, it's really small, and B, I might put it in the middle of another line later. We'll see how that goes. And we're going to say if C is in A, E, I, O, U. So if C is in this, it's going to be a vowel. But we have to do the capitals as well. So I could go like C dot lower, or I can just show a string with both ends of the spectrum. But this is going to give us true if we give it a vowel. So if I say vowel A, it's going to say true. If I say vowel F, it's going to say false. And then we're going to use that probably multiple times in the next couple parts. Then let's get all of them. Okay, I love to do it this way. I say, what do we do for one thing, and then how do we apply it to the whole thing? That's usually my preferred approach. So how do we identify one vowel, and then how do we identify all of them? So I'm going to say char for char in S. S is our string. Could be anything, a word, a sentence. If vowel char. So char is going to get in this list if it's a vowel. And you know what? Let's go ahead and just shorten it to C. We might as well make some really short expressions. I don't like single letter variables most of the time, but I don't like long lines either, so we have to pick one. Now, let me show you what is actually happening here. I'm going to print vowels. This is not needed, but I just want to show you. So that if we give it hello, it gives us E and O. If we give it tomatoes, it gives us O, A, O, E, which is all the vowels from that word. Now, we're going to go through the original, and for every letter, we're going to say, if it's a consonant, or whatever, exclamation or something else, we just take it. But if it was a vowel, we're not going to take it. We're going to take one from this list in the opposite order. So how do we do the opposite order? Well, we could say reversed. There's a function called reversed, or we could say, you know, sort reverse equals true. But I'm actually going to use a different method, which is, since we're getting them one at a time, we're getting one, another one, sometimes 2 in a row, but usually just one at a time. I'm going to use a method called pop. Pop takes one off of a list or takes one off of a stack. And you can imagine the idea if you have a stack of plates and you're doing dishes, you take one off the top, and now it's not the top anymore because it's not in the stack anymore. So if you pop again, you take the one that was under it. And so pop is useful to do 2 things at once. It takes it out of the list and it returns it to you. And it ends up reversing them, right? It's called, what do they call it? LIFO, last in, first out. The stack order makes it give you the most recent one. And that's going to end up reversing it without actually having to literally say reverse. So I'm going to go C for C and S. That's like the characters in the original string. But the characters are not always the characters. So I'm going to say if it's not a vowel, we take the one from the original. But if it is, we take vowels.pop. which will take 1 off the end and end up reversing it. So let me show you. We have to join that to make a string, otherwise we'd end up with a list like this. And I'm going to print it to demonstrate what the heck I'm talking about. So it's going to be tomatoes with the vowels stacked up and then peeled off one at a time to be reversed. So I can return that, and we got it. There we go. No problem. Let's take a look at the solutions from other people and see what they came up with. The top one is just like ours. They made a list and they popped off the list. So instead of listing the capitals, they lowered the character first to have a smaller comparison. No problem, same result. They said pop -1 to clarify that we're getting the last, but that's the default for pop. The default for pop is to take the last one, so it's the same as ours. And then that's all exactly the same as ours. This person did basically the same idea, but with a couple loops. So their names don't make it easy. Now I feel bad about the C and S thing, but basically what it looks like is they're making a list of vowels and then going through the original string and every time branching. If it's a consonant, we take it. If it's not, we take it off the vowel list. And that's basically the same idea as ours, even though this looks a lot different. This one, much nicer names. Give them points for that. And they have the same idea. We go through the original and we branch. If it was a consonant, we take it. If not, we take it from this vowel thing, which is right here. And if you keep scrolling, you'll see everybody's basically doing the same idea, but the code looks really different because some of them are using loops, some of them are using list comprehension, some of them are using generator expressions, some of them are using all kinds of different approaches. And it's nice to see where you can get an idea of how the person thinks or what order they did these. Very nice. Hey, there's me from earlier when I used the name char, which probably more respectable, but it does end up with the long line. Whenever I do these on a video, I make the text huge, and so the penalty for a long line is worse because you run out of space and you have to scroll and all of that. That one's nice, same kind of thing, and they use the next function to do the idea of what we did with pop. Next is basically like a for loop. It goes through one at a time, and that means they had to reverse it beforehand. So I like this. I'm glad someone asked me about it because it's using 3 or 4 basic skills. How do we check one thing to see yes or no, does it qualify? How do we apply that to all of them? And then how do we build our answer based on either take from the original or take from our filtered version? And that's the kind of thing that you do a lot. Even though you'll never see this specific thing come up in real life, you'll see the idea of like, okay, we have to keep some things from the original and rearrange others. That's very common.